Is. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the original podcast. I am JB, the host from the YouTube channel known as Inside of Mind, and my buddy here is the co-host, Eric Nielsen, from the YouTube channel known as the Looney Turtle.
Yes, hello everyone. You've heard my lovely voice for a minute.
And we have made it to 10 episodes on the original podcast. I'm surprised we lasted this long, to be honest, Eric. I mean, to be honest, we've only got like 4 episodes, I think, on the new channel, but still, it's technically 10. I'm classing it as 10.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow us on actual podcast websites like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and so on, we've got 10.
We've got 10. You can see them. They're there. I actually went onto the iTunes thing, and we've actually got a couple of reviews, man, and they like it. Thing is, I don't really follow the statistics that much on the iTunes and SoundCloud, mainly because it's not really the thing I've made the podcast for. A lot of it is to get guests on and just listen to their stories or just have a bit of a fun conversation. But I actually went onto it the other day, and yeah, I saw a few reviews there, and they were like, a little 5 stars, and they were like, oh, I'm really enjoying this. It's great to hear all these guests that are coming on. And I was like, oh, that's so kind. And they like you as well, Eric, of course. I just thought you felt a little left out there.
yeah, you didn't focus on me enough.
I'm not getting enough attention. Oh dear. But not only...
And everyone knows I need attention.
But not only is this our 10th episode, it's also going to be a Halloween special. I feel like we can start with that and talk about a few of the spooky things that I've covered on my channel over the past month. Maybe, Eric, we could talk about some spooky stories that you have.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I have some lovely stories to tell.
Nice, some real stories. And one of the things I want to actually talk about first is the ARG that I covered at the start of October. I believe that my update video will be coming out a few days later, but right now, we only have the one video that's up right now, which was talking about flyers that appeared around the United States and Canada, saying that they could record your dreams. And people obviously called up the phone number that was on there or visited the website, and it said, I think, applications for the dream recording trials were full, but you can apply on this website and answer a questionnaire, and they'll send you a confirmation later on whether or not you got the trials. So that's where it ended, okay? You still with me, Eric?
Yes, I'm still here.
Beautiful. You haven't dozed off. Great.
I exist.
So what's actually happened now is they had a Twitch, which obviously started posting live streams, and people have been kind of following that. It was posting every 2 days, I believe. But the big thing that's happened just recently is they have started accepting applications, and people have got emails redirecting them to an app called Cinna Body, I believe it's called, and I've got one as well, and you can go onto this, create an account. It's an app for the iPhone, but I don't think there's an Android version, so you have to kind of use the browser for that if you're on Android. There might be an app in future, we don't know yet. But
yeah,
you can log onto there, and there's 6 trials, I think there is, and it kind of has this woman narrating and telling you what she wants you to do, and you just listen to her, and then she tells you to usually record like a 12-second video by the end of each trial and upload it to the new Neurology Network on Cinna Body. Now, here's a little thing. There's been a bit of controversy surrounding this. I say controversy, it's not the actual game itself, it's more of the community's reaction to it that's been pretty interesting. The way the terms and conditions were worded when downloading this app, it kind of gave the idea that it was having access to your phone. And so, you could get all your personal data, a hold of it. And people freaked out because they don't know what they were going to do with this information. And they were like, well, how don't download this app if it could get a hold of you. We don't know what they're going to do with it. And first of all, I just want to point out that that's basically every app ever. If you have downloaded an app at some point, they have access to all your personal data, and it kind of creates a digital footprint. A lot of companies do this. A lot of tech companies do this. When you're exploring online, they try to track your personal data and get an idea of who you are so they can sell your information to get personalized ads. And Cinna Body basically has those same functions, but they've worded it in a way that makes it very clear that that's what they do. And they've worded it in a scary way, in my opinion, to spook people, and it's clearly worked. So I don't personally think that there's anything wrong with this particular app. And to actually further confirm, because something just came out, someone, the creator of one of the Discords, received an actual message from someone who was a part of the ARG confirming that nothing actually will happen if you sign up to this particular app. It turns out that they are just mundane functions like I thought they were, and people just overreacted to it. Which, they did word it spookily, so, it's not too surprising that people ended up freaking out over it. I do think the reaction was over the top, but still, they did reword it. They worded it in a way to spook people, and people were freaked. Some obviously went to the extreme with it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a lot of ARGs.
Yeah.
Because you've actually covered one recently. Was it Ghostwatch or?
Yeah, that
like the show that freaked people out enough that BBC had to distance themselves from the show?
Absolutely. They had to cover it up and pretend it didn't exist for nearly a decade because it had such a big backlash towards it.
Yeah. And the same thing happened with World of the War.
Yeah.
War of the Worlds, where it was a drama cast on the radio in a way that made it so people believed it was a real news broadcast, and so there were a lot of there was a lot of hysteria over it being real, when in reality it was kind of just entertainment.
Yeah, that was a thing they mentioned at the beginning, didn't they? At the radio, at the broadcast, that it was fiction, but people who tuned in after it didn't hear that little thing at the start saying that it was a fiction, so that's why they believed it to be fake.
Yeah. So when it comes to the app, so a lot of apps do have a lot of they have access to a lot of information on your phone, but the developers behind the software of phones, like Android as an example, are giving you more and more capabilities of disabling those features. Like my banking app needs access to my camera, my microphone, and my location. And so I have disabled all of that because it doesn't need that information. And I don't want them to have that information. So if you're really concerned about your safety on your phone, you can look into the settings and make sure that the apps don't have more permissions than you're comfortable giving them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In the case of my banking app, there is some use for the camera. If I want to make a check deposit, then it needs my camera, so I'll have to allow it for those situations. But when it's not in use, I generally disable the feature so that the app doesn't have the ability to use that information.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same with Snapchat or Twitter. They ask if they can allow to have access to the camera if you're taking a picture, because they need it in order to take the picture. And this was another thing that people had a problem with uploading videos to Cinna Body. They were like, if you post a video on here, anyone can download it. Apparently it's accessible for people to download, so anyone could steal your identity and take it. But here's the thing, most of the people complaining about this also have public Twitter accounts and YouTube channels that they upload to. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, even Instagram have people who can download and take your pictures that you post there. If you've posted anything anywhere online, it's anyone can get a hold of it,
especially on a public forum.
Yeah, especially on a public forum. And even then in private forums, if someone, is they're a bit dodgy, could easily take something from that. So anything you put online is kind of at that risk, and so there's nothing different in this case is what I'm basically saying. The internet is always kind of a dodgy place, but there is no difference here.
But I feel like moments like this are a good opportunity to inform people of exactly what you can do to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Online, and I think that maybe especially with the phone, like telling people that apps do have a lot of access to your information and you can restrict that access.
This
That's
is kind of what I'm actually, yeah, this is kind of the positive thing I'm taking from this particular ARG, because like I said with Ghostwatch, I think Ghostwatch was like a good example of how TV is merging reality and fiction together, and a lot of news outlets and things are using this and, you know, making false accusations and fake stories, or, you know, things that are loosely based on the truth. And things like Ghostwatch, because at the time people believed everything that was on TV. There was even a famous quote where someone came out. Actually, I have a book on Ghostwatch here, and the first opening page is a quote that literally says, "I won't believe it until I see it on TV." So the fact that Ghostwatch came out as, you know, pretending it was real, even though it was fiction, is like a perfect learning curve for a lot of people to realize that not everything you see on TV is true, and the best way to learn that is with something that's fiction and can't put you in actual danger. So something like with the new neurology thing with the Cinna Body, it's the perfect time to actually learn that all the apps that you download can access certain things that they don't need to access. And it's a good thing that you've actually brought that up, Eric, because on my phone, obviously, there are settings that you can go into the apps section, I think, on the Android. I don't know if anyone has Android who's listening.
It does do that. You can go into the individual apps.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it works on Apple, but at least there's information somewhere.
There will be. I'm sure you
Yeah.
can. But yeah, for me, obviously, I have Android as well, and I can go into settings, and there's an app section where you can go onto apps, and each one has individual thing that has the app, you know, what they're allowed to do. There's even it even has access to notifications. If anyone gets like notifications from a game or something they had saying, "Hey, you haven't played this in a while," that's because they have access to your phone to tell you that you know, you haven't played this in a while, and send you notifications. But you can turn those notifications off. I think a lot of people might already know that, but the people who are obviously angry at this particular app right now obviously don't. So it is a perfect time to kind of address this and bring it up. Also, a good thing as well is to be cautious online as well. With Twitter, you know, and YouTube. If you don't want your face out there, make sure that your Twitter account or Facebook is private, because you can make them private. And obviously that makes it harder for anyone who could be, you know, wandering around the internet trying to steal people's identities. Great, yeah, best way I could say. I think there was something else I wanted to say in that scenario as well, but I've kind of lost my train of thought on that.
I could kind of pick up on that. So, pick up where you left off.
Yeah.
There is some information that we should always try and keep close to our chest when you're online, especially when it gets more and more personal. Don't tell anyone where you live. Like, if you live in the United States, you can say the state. Don't go down to the city. Because the more specific you get about where you are or who you are, the more the people around you can take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
So hold all of your information close to your chest, and always look into what you're agreeing to when you get a new phone or when you install a new app.
Yeah, and in this case, the actual Cinna Body app, I can say that, you know, this any of these things that are on the app and the things that it has access to are not actually going to be not malicious in any way. They're not going to be selling it on to anyone else. It was there as a scare tactic, I guess you could say. And also, the videos that people submit, I think the worst case scenario of what will happen to them is that they might appear in like a montage of something that the new Neurology Network have planned, like, you know, in like a video that they have promoted later on, because there's a section that I think says videos, so I'm assuming that there'll be something appearing there, and it may be a montage of everybody. So if you don't want that, then I recommend you don't record the videos of you doing the trials. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else in there that I need to address. But that seemed to be the main thing.
Yeah.
overall. So it's always an interesting topic to talk about. I think I'm going to address it in my update video on New Neurology Network. I don't think I'm going to go into as much detail as I am here. Maybe I'll tell people to come to this podcast and look at this for a more detailed idea of what happened, and I'll just kind of give the brief synopsis of what took place. But yeah, people weren't too happy about that, and that's what I do find interesting with alternate reality games in general. You know, some of the more controversial ones have drawn attention to these kind of issues, and people have been in uproar about it. But like you said, it can sometimes be looked at as a good thing, because these people are going to learn about things that they didn't know about their phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, it's certainly an interesting one. I think we were talking about Ghostwatch earlier as well, which I think we can talk briefly about right now, because I've got a book on Ghostwatch. It's called Behind the Curtains. It's actually a transcript. It's not technically a book, but there's a DVD out which is Behind the Curtains, and it's a behind the scenes kind of video of Ghostwatch and how it all came to be. And it's got the cast that I think it was made in 2013, so most of the cast was still alive at the time for interviews, and it was kind of a documentary look back on the whole thing. And so I'm going to give it a bit of a read later on, but it's something I recommend getting. Either get the transcript or the DVD. I wanted to get the DVD, but it sold out, unfortunately, when I was looking for it, so I got the next best thing, which is the transcript. I'll have to put the link in the description if anyone's obviously interested in that. Another thing for the Ghostwatch as well is I mentioned an Audible sponsor. I said audio. Audible sponsor.
No, it's better than flavored AIDS.
I don't think you're gonna you're gonna be.
I am not gonna live that down ever.
No, absolutely not. For those who actually don't know about the podcast, for flavored AIDS, Eric was doing some lines for me. Was it for Pizza Time Pizza?
I think so. Like, it was one of his videos I was doing the voice acting for, and a line came up where it was listing a bunch of ingredients for... I'm pretty sure it was Pizza Time Pizza. It was listing ingredients for pizza or something.
Oh,
and
yes, it was. Yeah, go on.
One of the many ingredients was flavored AIDS. Flavor AIDS.
I don't even remember what it was.
It was Flavor AIDS.
Yes.
And I was trying to rush through it as fast as possible because it was one of those, it includes this, and this. And when I got to Flavor AIDS, it
Flavor Aid
meshed together.
Yeah, that were it. Flavor Aid.
Yeah, Flavor Aid. Yeah. I instead said flavored AIDS, and I didn't go back in the recording and delete it. So Jamie heard that, and he found it really funny and decided to share it on Twitter, and now it is a running gag.
Yep, and fans will always remember it forever.
Yep,
flavored.
They'll
AIDS.
always remember the day I said flavored AIDS. It's pretty delicious, but the after effects are kind of...
Oh, that's horrible to think about.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, God. Yeah, so for those... I've just realized now that it was part of the ingredients that talked about drugs that made you, like, the sedatives basically found in a pizza. And this is obviously supposed to be a Pizza Time Pizza that's a cult, or not a cult, according to some.
Yeah, it's not a cult, officially. # not a cult.
And these ingredients, obviously, that were listed, they flashed up for a brief second, and I had Eric read them out because they were sedatives making people sleepy and kind of lose conscious control of their mind. And Flavored Aid was a reference to the Kool-Aid, drinking the Kool-Aid. I didn't mention it in my actual video, but a few people mentioned it in the comments, which was an interesting thing. And I think it resorts back to an old cult that actually took place about, I don't know if you're aware of that, Eric, something to do with...
Well, the only thing that I'm thinking of is there was... There's a product called Kool-Aid, and a lot of...
But there's a saying, I believe.
A general expression that comes up is, you're drinking the Kool-Aid.
That's it.
Or
it's because they've tampered with it.
Well, drinking the Kool-Aid is an expression to refer to when somebody is listening to rhetoric that's not true, but totally buying it. That's kind of what it's supposed to mean.
Yeah, and that comes from people in the cult or something, because I think they put something in their drink that obviously made them believe everything that they were getting told.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong because I haven't looked into that at all, so I just kind of made that up on the spot. But I assume that's what it is.
Yeah. It's one of many American expressions, kind of like God, when I need to have an expression ready, I can't think of it. It's kind of like beating a dead horse or killing two birds with one stone. That kind of stuff. It's in the same vein. It's one of those
Is
expressions.
that an
we
American
made up.
saying? Killing two birds with one stone? Because we use
it
that.
might be a British one, but Americans use it too.
Yeah, I don't know where exactly that originated from, but you guys definitely have your own. That we don't use.
It's the same kind of idea. Is that it's to describe when somebody's buying into false rhetoric.
Yeah, which is obviously perfect reference to have in Pizza Time Pizza, because obviously it's not a cult, as you're aware.
Not a cult. It's just a cult.
But yeah, to go back to what I was saying about the Audible sponsor, I wanted to talk about the book that I was listening to, because I did mention it, The Institute, which was made by Stephen King, and I've actually just finished it. Yeah, you probably don't have it because you only just heard the video today, and obviously you got the Audible sponsor, didn't you, Eric?
Yeah. I bought it. Yeah.
Obviously, because why wouldn't you? I'm your best friend.
Yeah.
You want to help me out with my sponsorships?
Yeah. Best
obviously. Okay, so obviously you've got the Institute now, but you've only obviously just started. But I'll give you a heads up about what it's about and my thoughts.
I definitely haven't had an Audible subscription for like years and just not used it. But go on. Like I genuinely have an Audible subscription because I am not a reader, so I like to hear it instead of reading it, which is really nice, but I rarely use it, so I'm paying monthly, but
I just want to clarify, everyone listening, this is not a sponsor for Audible. I'm literally just wanting to review the book that I got from them from a sponsored video, so we're not actually...
As I said, this episode is sponsored by random people who wanted me to read quotes.
That's who sponsored this video. Yeah, exactly. They're supporting this video.
They're the official sponsor. Use Audible.
So I got the Institute and I started listening to it, and it's really interesting about. I think my favorite part is the first half. The second half isn't as good. The first half is within the Institute, and the second half is a lot more of the kids trying to break free and take down the Institute. And that part, I don't know. I think what got me most was the first half was due to how the adults just treated the kids like test subjects. They treated them like absolute garbage. I think it's with Stephen King being about politics and stuff. I couldn't help think this is probably a reference to some of the stuff with, I think it was Mexico, was it? Where people were put in cages and treated like crap. I couldn't help but feel that Stephen King probably has something related to that with this book, because he has expressed his concerns with Trump and stuff like that, and he mentions Trump at the very beginning of this book. So I'm just thinking, I wonder.
I thought out of all of the subjects that you've covered in the past, you might have thought of Junko Junsui.
That's very true, actually. I wasn't really thinking of the past topics I've covered, but that definitely reminds me of it, with kids being just trapped in these little areas. Although they were forced to do, this is more torture, what they went through, whereas I think Junko Junsui was kind of just trapped and ordered to do certain things, and was kind of given decent treatment, even though they were still prisoners, whereas these kids, they just got it rough. Like they would be their heads would be dunked into a tank and held for like a minute. They've got to hold their breath for a minute and come up and answer a question. they were bad trials, and I loved that first part because I think it adds the fact that these are kids, so they're like powerless, and it's kind of terrifying.
It kind of sounds like a combination of what's currently going on at the United States-Mexico border, as well as what we've done in Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, kind of, because Guantanamo Bay is a high security institution where we allow torture. We allow things
Okay.
that honestly shouldn't be allowed. But it's mostly with terrorists or people who are threatening the United States.
I am certain they mentioned that. There is an actual person who works or worked at the Institute who apparently worked at Guantanamo Bay where they were torturing terrorists and they were desensitized to torturing them.
Okay.
And then they came to the Institute, but then that started to wear off because it was kids they were experimenting on. This person managed to convince themselves that torturing terrorists was okay because they're terrorists, they're violating the country. But then when they came to kids, it felt different. That was quite interesting. And so the first half, like I said, I love it for that tension and just the kids have no control. They don't know how they're going to break out. They are smarter than the average kids. I'll say that. I think they're 12 years old. The main guy, he's called Luke, and he's really intelligent. The whole thing is the kids are psychic as well. They have these special abilities, and the Institute usually finds these people at birth and watches them as they grow up. I don't know why they don't just take them straight away. I can't remember if that was explained. There was a lot to listen to, but
again, I'm seeing a lot of parallels between this story and Junko, but there's more than enough contrast between them. It's interesting to see.
Oh yeah, I can see the connections between the two. Although Junko was brought up from birth, whereas these are grown up with actual parents for the majority of the first 10 years, usually, depending on their powers. And I think they wait till their powers get to a certain level before they abduct them, and they kill their parents and make it look like it was the kid who killed them. So if the kid ever escapes, they're a wanted person. So
Okay.
it's an interesting area to explore, and like I said, I think there's a lot of references to what America do on the Mexican border in Guantanamo Bay, and the second half seems to really delve into taking down the Institute, which I still enjoyed, but not as much as the first part, because I think he finds adults at that point, so the fear kind of goes a little more because he's got people protecting him, whereas in the first half he was on his own with other kids.
Yeah.
So there's not really much else. You don't know what's really going to happen. You also don't know what happens to the kids because they disappear after a certain amount of tests if they succeed in certain things. So really pretty eerie stuff, or disturbing stuff maybe it depends what you feel, but I liked the book. Worth a read or listen, depending which one you want to get. I'm glad I listened to it. I'm probably going to get a few more Stephen King books on Audible. I never used it before until the sponsor came around. I wanted to actually give it a go for some time, and then when they approached me, I was like, oh, this is like perfect time. And then when I started listening to it while I was doing other stuff, I was like, I've missed this. This is exactly what I've been looking for quite a while, because I always listen to videos in the background while I'm either playing a game or writing a script. So the fact that I've got something now I can just play that just, narrates.
Yeah. Have you read any other Stephen King books? Because there was their recent movie, It, and It Chapter 2.
Yes, although I haven't read the It book, but I know it's very long, and everyone likes to talk about it.
Well, I don't mean to be biased, but it's pretty amazing, especially that part about the turtle.
Why is the turtle the fixation, Eric? Mr. Looney Turtle.
See, he's pretty awesome. He's got cosmic powers.
Oh, yeah?
He created the universe.
Oh, really?
So,
Are you just
Yeah,
bigging?
and he's the Pennywise's biggest like enemy. So
Oh, okay.
it's nice to see a turtle in the role of
It's nice
the
to see
hero
some
now.
turtle representation.
Turtle representation in the industry. It's really nice. It's kind of hard.
Was he ever addressed though in the movie though, or was he just glossed over? Was he whitewashed?
We don't talk about it.
Turtles are still being discriminated. Disappointing.
Well, I mean, at least we got a little bit of cameos. Like there was a Lego turtle and some like turtle Easter eggs.
So we're getting there.
it's
We're
not
building
like-
up, but
Yeah,
we aren't quite there
turtles
yet.
Turtles are making a hit in the books, but when it comes to movies, still an uphill battle, man.
Oh, you poor soul. Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's hard.
I've actually been looking into. I'm wanting to read. I've got the collection. My brother got it for my birthday this year, and it's the Dark Tower. It's like a big collection of Stephen King books that collects all the books together. When you
Yeah, I
brought
heard
up
about that
the
one.
turtle being the creator of the universe, that's obviously going to be connecting to all that and the whole lore.
it's great because there's turtle representation in that one. Yeah.
So I've been meaning to get around to that. I'm either gonna read it or I'm gonna get it on Audible and have it listening to in the background. But the Dark Tower is definitely what I want to do. I don't know if anyone's actually read that book or actually heard it. If anyone's listening to the podcast, let us know, because I'm curious. Is it any good? Because I've heard the movie. They tried to make a movie in 2017 and it like tanked, did really bad.
Yeah, but that's most of Stephen King's movies anyway.
I know there's some really good ones. Have you seen like some of the new ones? Stephen King's making a big comeback recently.
Oh yeah, his latest movies are doing really well, but the old ones kind of a lot of flops.
I don't know. The Shining, that's like one of the cult classics.
Shining.
Although that's
it's
like the
good.
one movie that Stephen King
Yeah,
doesn't like.
it's kind of like yeah. You got an entire library and you pick the one he hates.
Yeah, Misery, that's another one.
What?
Misery, that's another movie from the past that was really good.
Oh yeah, that one was really good.
That was
I'd like to see
creepy.
a remake of that.
That'd be good,
'cause
yeah.
It kind of applies to like nowadays more than anything.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
It's a critique of toxic fans, and in this
Yeah.
day and age,
Oh my God.
you have people literally going to stars' houses.
That would be so relevant now, wouldn't it? You could
Yeah.
really make that in the modern day almost, couldn't you? Misery.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a miserable book.
But yeah, there's been a lot of Netflix originals that have been making Stephen King books. I saw Gerald's Game. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. I like that one.
I think I have.
You should watch it. It's interesting because it all takes place on a bed. Basically, a husband and wife, they went out to a little cabin in the woods, believe it or not, set up for a horror movie.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. You're saying in this horror movie, they went into a cabin in the woods. Oh my gosh, this is the most original thing.
So rude, honestly. How
I'm
dare
not
you?
be-
You saying
I'm-
that Stephen
I am
King
being
is
sincere,
generic?
Sir. You
So
are cruel. Anyways, go on.
they went to a cabin in the woods. They wanted to get their relationship spiced up a bit more.
Oh,
So
my.
the guy handcuffs the woman to the bed, and before anything happens, he has a heart attack and dies.
That's a spicy time.
Interesting thing as well
Weird-
is I think
weird
the
kink.
door was left open. Yeah, it's a weird kink, dying while being handcuffed. That's a strange fetish.
Weird.
The door is left open, so I think wolves come in and start eating him. But then she's just stranded on this bed, doesn't know how to break from the handcuffs. And it's interesting what she does to survive and the things that they talk about and bring up to keep the movie going. I really liked it. I think the ending was a bit weird. Maybe I kind of missed something in that area, but it was kind of out of the blue. But it's worth a watch if you, like you said, you haven't seen it. So I recommend you actually get around to watching that when you've done. But
Okay.
also, there's another one called The Tall Grass? I haven't seen that one yet, but that's on Netflix as well. I don't know if it's any good, but it's new.
It exists, and since it's new, it must be good, because the It movie was... Don't watch Chapter 2.
I watched Chapter 2. Yeah, it was an interesting one. To be fair, I feel like there was a lot of missed opportunities in It Chapter 2. I've always said that I think it would have been better if they had a miniseries on Netflix where every episode it covers one of the characters, you know, and what they go through and their experiences with the clown, the kid, and the adult version of themselves.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think was bad about It Chapter 2 is that they kind of were no longer afraid of the clown by the end of the first one. So it kind of just went back into the same thing in It Chapter 2. But they brought in something interesting about, what was his name? Is it Billy? The guy who's gay. But they obviously don't want to... They hint at it instead of saying anything. The comedian, basically. He obviously has the
Welcome to
secret.
the day and age where if we want to represent a gay couple, we've got to kind of give you subtext rather than say it.
So he has the secret that he's gay and he doesn't want to acknowledge it. I think the thing that could have brought the fear back into the adults was secrets rather than something that's scary. And they could have delved onto that a lot more for him, you know, like Pennywise suggesting his secret's gonna break out and everyone's gonna know, which would terrify him, which would create more fear for Pennywise to go and kill him. But they never really it wasn't really delved into all that much, so I found it just a bit disappointing.
Also, in the second chapter, it seems that they relied more heavily on CGI. Like the first one didn't have too much in regards to CGI, but this one just ham and fist. It's a CG movie.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That it's it's on a whole other level. It wasn't as scary, this one, as well. Everyone else has said that. It was more comedic in certain areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think they were as subtle as they were in probably the first one, which is interesting because I didn't think the first one was that subtle. I thought there was like a good few moments, but yeah, it was very in your face already. So they just took it to the extreme in this second one. I do like the guy as Pennywise, though. I really do like him. I was a bit iffy at first
really
in the
like
first
his
one.
name.
Yeah,
Bill
I don't
Skarsgård.
because I can't. I don't know how to pronounce it. So I always butcher words when it comes to things that are just slightly different to the English language, and I hate having to try and pronounce them because I know everyone's waiting for me to mess it up.
Isn't it like Bill Skarsgård?
I'm not sure. I'm not even going to try. Because
You
if
should
there's
try.
anything I've
The internet
learned,
will
no.
have fun.
I swear everyone who watches my videos are waiting for me to read out a quote that is slightly foreign, just for me to mispronounce a word. It is. I swear someone was like, you know, it isn't a proper Inside of Mine video until Jamie mispronounces a word that's not quite English.
Yeah.
It's certainly good. But Stephen King, man, he's making a huge comeback. Was there any more movies? Oh, yeah, that was it. Doctor Sleep. I read that book, and there's a movie of that coming out next month, I think.
What's Doctor Sleep about?
It's a sequel to The Shining. It's the kid all grown up, and he's kind of just, you know, having, I guess, PTSD from his past experiences, from what happened at the obviously hotel, and his father going absolutely insane. But it's interesting, this one, though, because it's very different to the first one. You wouldn't really think it'd be a sequel until, you know, they start mentioning all the references to the previous one. It's about people who, well, I guess vampires in a way, who eat, they call it steam, but they basically absorb kids who have psychic abilities, like the kid in The Shining. It's certainly an interesting one, and I don't know. It's a good book, but I don't know if it'll come across good in a movie. It might come across as goofy.
Oh.
So I'm not too sure about what the movie will be like. It could be fun. Maybe it'll be like It Chapter 2 where it goes all out comedy more than anything else, but it's intentionally. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that one.
Yeah. What was that movie where the psychiatrist is trying to help the kid?
Psychiatrist.
Like the big twist is, I see dead people.
Oh, the Sixth Sense. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen that movie.
Yeah. You can't watch that movie now.
It's 20 years ago. They should have watched it by
Yeah,
now.
yeah. If you haven't watched it, where have you been? But was that a Stephen King adaptation or?
No, that was M. Night Shyamalan. The
Oh,
director
right.
that went absolutely.
Right, the guy that ruined it, Last Airbender. I gotcha.
He went downhill quite fast. He made, I think, 2 good movies, or maybe 3. I think there was Signs. There was like a people debate on whether that was good or not. But he made Unbreakable.
That one movie about the Amish village. That
Oh yeah, he
guess
did.
what the twist
He made
is?
that.
Guess what the twist is? They're in present times.
Oh my god, what a twist!
What a
I
twist!
think that movie wasn't terrible. I think it was like the promotion towards it, because it promoted it as if it was a love story. So all these people thinking they were gonna get like a, I guess a chick flick, you could say. They got like this. Oh wait, no, was it that, or was it no? It was the other way around. Sorry. It was promoted like it was a horror movie, but then it turned out to be a love story. So there you go.
That's a weird way to advertise it.
Yeah, well, I think someone told me when it comes to trailers, the trailers people who make the trailers are very different, are completely separated from the film, and they only
Yeah.
get given footage, and so there's not much context around it. So they can only go by what they're given to promote it. And if it looks like a horror, I guess they're going to be like, well, we're going to make it a horror now. We're going to advertise it as a horror.
Yeah. I think that a better way to handle that would be to just like give them a basic premise of what a movie's about so they can make a
Yeah.
faithful trailer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's-
that I could be wrong on that. I know that's what some trailers are like, when they're being misleading because they got given the wrong information. But I don't know if that's exactly what happened with the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Village.
Yeah.
But he's an interesting fella. I kind of like his newer ones because they're usually very goofy. Now, he made that Glass movie. Do you remember that one? It had Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis, and
I don't
the other
believe I
guy.
did.
Oh, well, you should watch it. It's an interesting one. It's a sequel to Unbreaking.
How
if you
many
watch,
movies are we up to now? You should watch
I'm gonna list all of them.
this,
Hey,
this, and this.
there's so many movies. I could talk about them for ages, to be honest. The second
Yeah.
you bring up movies, I'm going on a tangent, man.
Lovely.
I'm a film buff, but these are great movies. I'll make a list for you of everything you've got to see, and if you haven't seen it by the next podcast, I'm going to be very upset.
Okay, cool. The next guest isn't film related, right?
I don't know. But there might be.
It's fun recording because we never know who's next.
Yeah, it's always a surprise. I mean, I think we have a podcast that's already recorded that's going to go up after this anyway, so we could technically say we know who it is. But we're not going to say because it's a secret.
Yeah, but that
You're gonna have to
happened
guess.
before this recording that is
That's true.
being published before the one that was recorded before this. So yeah.
I guess we'll I want to move on to some ghost stories because you said you have some ghost stories, so I thought that'd be perfect for Halloween since we're getting back on track for the Halloween related themes.
Yes. So, the first story I'll tell is, well, actually, I have 2 things I wanted to talk about. One of which isn't necessarily a story, more just a conversation about a place that I've been to. And then the second one is going to be a ghost story. I'll start with that. So,
All right.
my grandpa told this scary story when I was younger, and it was spoopy. So might as well, yeah. So a long while in the past, my grandpa and his brother would go to these impromptu parties at random campsites. Like some of them were just on the top of a mountain, easy to get to, easy to see, kind of things.
Alright.
It was mostly bonfires, so it was a nice experience to go out and enjoy the outdoors. So one night, my grandpa's with his brother and my grandma, and my grandpa and his brother go up the hill to kind of check out what this camp is doing, see if it's going to be a fun party, if anyone's allowed to just kind of come and join the party. And my grandma waits in the car, and it takes about 10 minutes, and my grandpa and his brother come running down the hill, and they are pale white. Because it turns out there wasn't actually anything on the top of the hill. It looked like when they got there, it looked like something was going on, but there was absolutely nothing up there. So that really scared the heck out of them.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's that story. Kind of anticlimactic now that I remember it.
I thought there was going to be a bit more, like they were going to investigate and find out what happened.
There was ghosts, and everyone went woo, and then they ran down the hill.
Hey, spooky. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Personal experience.
Yeah, it's spookier than my original one. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's spooky.
Yeah. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is Queen Mary. So this is a boat that was used as a cruise liner for a number of years, and during one of the World Wars, or I'm pretty sure it was one of the World Wars, it was converted into a Navy vessel so that we could fight in the war. And it was painted gray. It was called the Gray Ghost or something like that. And a lot of people ended up dying on board the Queen Mary. There's stories of a guy walking downstairs. There's a bunch of corridors that will slowly close shut, kind of like if you've ever seen any sci-fi movies, there's those ones that just kind of pan closed rather than kind of like an elevator actually. So there's some that are like that, but they were very heavy duty and they didn't have any safeguards like we do nowadays. So once they start closing, you gotta get out of there. And one day it looks like this guy was just kind of hurrying to get to like through the door so he could get out of the below deck area. And it seemed like he was just doing a patrol, and he got caught in the door and smashed to death. And on the tour, it was said that when people go past, they'd find like grease stains would appear on their face or on their clothes, that kind of stuff. But then it'd disappear when they left the area. So that's a very haunted area.
Jeez, where did you hear that story?
It was on one of the tours in the Queen Mary. We went below deck and actually saw the door that he got smashed at. It was door. It may sound corny, but I think it was door 13.
No,
Yeah.
you're lying.
It probably isn't.
Are you searching it?
I'm totally not searching this.
All right, you're just trying to remember it by memory. Okay.
Yep. Just by memory on my keyboard.
I'm using my keyboard as memory.
Yeah. Lady in White is seen in the engine room. That I don't remember. I'm not seeing anything on it. So
We
I'm
should
gonna
do like we
stop
should get
searching
like
that.
those other people from like podcasts where we have like a fact checker. So when we say these stories, we get someone else actually searching for us, so we don't have to like hear these giant keyboards in the background going, "Oh, let's have a look at this."
I mean, my keyboard's not that big; it's just loud. Don't get mechanical
keyboard is
keyboards
loud.
that make loud clicking sounds. So yeah, that's one of the tours that I went on in the Queen Mary. There was also the swimming pool. There's I think it was the girls' locker room that they have theorized is the gate to hell,
Okay,
or at
usual
least
thing.
has a gate to hell in it. Because
Oh, okay, that makes it better.
yeah, that's better. That's better. uh,
Less scary.
yeah, it's not as spoopy. So they had the pool decked out with all of these fancy little effects, and it just created a very creepy atmosphere for what was alleged to have happened in the locker room in the pool area. And all throughout these tours, my mom was, of course, taking billions of pictures because she wants to get everything for the memories, which is nice, but that was a lot of pictures. So, in a lot of the images, we were able to see orbs, and I think there were actually a couple of figures that we were able to see in some of these pictures. So, the Queen Mary is very much a haunted area. It's got a lot of supernatural happenings that can't quite be explained. The orbs, I'll just chalk up to dust. I mean, it's an old boat. It's probably dusty. But, some of the other stuff, I think there was a path that we went on. We walked past, and there was nothing on the path. All of the paths were clear for the tour, but in one of the pictures, there was actually tools sitting on the path that we were on, and so that was weird. There was stuff that we didn't see on the path in our pictures after we went home.
Okay.
Yeah. So, there was just minor things like that would appear in our pictures that couldn't quite be explained. So
Interesting. Yeah. Well,
have you ever
I
been
mean-
to any creepy locations?
I haven't been to really creepy locations, but I obviously heard stories a lot of the time. There's a story from my. I don't know what she is to me. She might be my auntie. I'm not sure. I'll just call her my auntie for now. But she had to look after a house that was basically in the middle of nowhere, and it was on a hill. And she was telling me these stories, because she was very invested in it. So I can only go by what she's told me. So I don't know if these are exaggerated or if there's any explanations for them. But she went to look after this house because the owner was out, I think on holiday, visiting another country for a few weeks. So she had to house sit because I think there was a few animals in this particular house as well, like chickens and things like that. And so she eventually ended up locking the door to go out with her friend. And she remembers locking it. Her friend even saw that it was locked. And they both went down into the car. And her friend looked up and went, "Did you lock the door?" And she was like, "Yeah, I locked the door." She was like, "Well, it's wide open right now." And when they looked up, the door was like wide open. Apparently, there was another case where she woke up and the bottom of the floor was glowing orange for some strange reason. She absolutely crapped herself, so she didn't want to get out of bed. She just tried to pretend that she didn't see anything. So she was, that was another witness in there. Apparently, the house itself, there has been hauntings like that going on for a while. One case from the owner himself. Again, this is like from a eyewitness, from a witness, from a witness. From someone who's heard the story to someone else who's heard the story. But he was feeding his fish. He heard he went back inside to get the food. He heard like a dog barking absolutely rapidly outside, and when he went back outside, all the fish were dead and floating at the top of of the pond. Yeah. So a lot of strange things were happening around that house. There's also apparently another case where I don't know, some eggs fell off the shelf or something like that. Yeah. Oh. I mean, she told it like this really big drawn out story to tell me that the eggs fell off of the shelf, and I was like, oh, okay.
I was in the kitchen and I was making the food. Everything was going well, and then the eggs fell.
Well, she was like, they were on the floor. I didn't hear the sound or anything like that, but they were there. They were there, and I was like,
were you wearing your hearing aids? No.
I was gonna say, did you? You are of a certain age. You might have just not heard it.
It's plausible. I'm not saying you're wrong, but
I'm not saying. All I'm saying is I'm having to shout at you right now so you can hear me. Yeah. So
you can hear me.
You put two and two together. But like you were saying with orbs, I've never understood it. Why that would be conclusive proof.
Well, it's because in some of the images they've zoomed in and they're able to see faces in it. But
right.
I equate that to the same effect we see with there's a famous picture from Mars that looks like a face, but it's really just a formation of mountains. Or there's random patterns. You can show somebody a random pattern and they can decipher a face. It's something familiar to us. And so whenever we have the opportunity, we will try and construct a face. And with an orb, and especially zooming into an orb that's in an image, it's already blurry. So there's not a lot of discernible details in it. So I think the idea behind seeing a face in an orb in an image is just your pattern recognition. Your brain is fooling you into thinking there's a face there when it's just a cobbled mess of pixels.
Yeah, I honestly never knew that. I've always been curious why people obviously looked at orbs as proof, and I really didn't know about the seeing face when you zoomed right into them.
Yeah, that's the idea, is that it's a spirit hanging around there, and usually you can see a face in that.
Oh, right,
that
okay.
orb.
I see. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've kind of covered everything and gone on to like a whole other.
Actually, you have reminded me of another kind of spooky story.
Okay.
So
Go for it.
There was one day I was very sick, and so I didn't go to school. I think it was school I didn't go to. But I had spent the entire day sleeping, and at some point, I don't know what actually triggered this or whatever happened, but in my dreaming, I kind of imagined that there was this big threat, this big thing that was going to devour me if I left the house. And so I ran upstairs because that's where the threat was. And I went to the kitchen level, and my house has 2 more floors above that. And I started wailing on this wall to get somebody's attention. And my dad opened his door and came down. And he's like, "Were you shaking my doorknob or like messing with my door?" And I was like, "No, I'm just down here. I was hitting this wall." He's like, "No, somebody was shaking my doorknob." And I'm like, "No, it was." And I finally snapped out of it. I'm like, "Okay, I was dreaming, and I walked all the way up here in a panic." That's what happened. So I calm down. I get my heart rate under control, and I go downstairs and I go back to sleep because, I'm sick. What the hell was I doing running around the house? And nothing happened after that. But nothing for me. But later in the day, my dad told me that after I went downstairs, he went back into his room and heard somebody talking downstairs. Keep in mind, I was the only other guy that was home, and I was four stories below him.
Okay.
So, it was not me. And he hears 2 people talking to each other, and he opens the door, goes downstairs, nobody's home. So, that was a weird experience because something scared me into going upstairs, and, then afterwards you hear somebody talking. I couldn't quite explain it. It just, one of those weird situations. It must have been ghosts.
It was a ghost. I'm always fascinated by ghost stories. I've never, like I said, I think in Aiden's podcast, I've never been one to believe it, but always been fascinated by eyewitnesses and the stories they have to tell. Because they always tell it well as well. They're always like very detailed about what they remember. So they should be writers, really. I think.
Yeah.
Because their ability to kind of build the atmosphere as they're telling the story. It's always great. You just need them around a campfire and it'd be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, set the mood.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think, is that everything? Or do you have, like, any more spoopy stories to tell? I said spoopy. Oh,
I gotcha. Been saying spoopy this entire time.
Yeah.
I said it before it was cool.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much all that we had in mind.
I think we can end the podcast then by reading out more quotes from our Twitter followers who are sponsoring this video, obviously.
Yes. They gave us $0.00. And so, well, actually, they gave us viewership.
Still technically sponsored.
They gave us
exactly.
viewership, so they're real heroes.
And that's why you are going to read out what they want you to say in a scary voice to close the podcast.
Alrighty.
All right.
I just pooped my pants. I believe I just lost a piece of my mind listening to that. Children are the juiciest, medium rare and uncomfortable. What are your favorite scary movie? That's broken English. Oh God, I've forgotten how to read. Not again. Welcome to the Spooktober special. That one's not easy to do. Welcome to the Spooktober special. You have to get it all out in one.
Yeah, okay.
One fell swoop with that voice. My lord, it has... oh my lord, it's got a gun. This baby has a gun.
I can hear you dying.
You can hear me
as you
choking
write.
slowly inside. You can hear me dying inside.
Yeah, I can.
Kill the rich. I genuinely appreciate myself and him a worthwhile and unique person. God, he's got an ego. I have murdered 10 children with a butter knife.
That's a perfect way to end it. Thank you guys for listening.